Mega is an improvised satire from the staff of a fictional megachurch.
We are here, the Lord, we are here, and we're ready to podcast.
Hiya, I'm Hallie Labont, and this is Mega, coming to you from Twin Hills Community Church, where every single week we give our mega church just a tiny family feel. We introduce you to members of our church staff, people from our community. I think it is a treat and it is a treasure. Well, per usual, I'm joined by my co-host. He's the youth pastor for our high school ministry called Climax. Please welcome Gray Haas.
Hey, Hallie. Yep, his rod and staff, they comfort me. So.
Oh, Gray, you okay?
You know, it's been a pretty challenging week in my personal life, Hallie, to be honest. I'm not sure if I've mentioned him before, but my friend Clay Mason Bannerman, yeah, he was assaulted.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I think Clay, he's a Christian, I guess. I've just been working on him for years, and sometimes I like to say he's a CNO, a Christian in name only.
Oh,
and
no.
he went on a trip last weekend with a bunch of his fraternity brothers from Alpha Chi Omega from the Ohio State University.
Cool.
And they went to Pensacola, Florida, and yeah, I guess he got very drunk.
Oh, no.
And was assaulted by his fraternity brothers. They took him to a tattoo parlor and tattooed him against his will.
He got a tattoo?
Yes.
While
and
he
I'm
was
just
intoxicated.
I know. And I'm not against tattoos if they're cool ones, but this one
or
is just
Christian ones.
Right. This one is just an absolute it's a crime. The tattoo's a crime.
What's the tattoo of? Is it a picture?
I don't even know if I want to get into it, Hallie. The tattoo is Lee Lalo.
The letters?
Lee. Well, Lee's not a letter, Hallie. Lee Lalo.
Lee Lalo?
Yeah.
Like L-E-L-A-L-O?
L-I. L-A-L-O.
Lee Lalo?
Lee Lalo,
What does that mean? Is it a fraternity thing? Where did they put it on his body?
No, it's not a fraternity thing. Okay, they put it on a part of his body that grows.
His hair or beard?
What? No.
His belly?
No.
His butt?
What?
It
How does
can
your butt
grow and
grow?
shrink.
No, Hallie. Okay, just like a part of his body that, like when it's colder,
Oh, there?
Yeah.
They tattooed him there?
Yeah.
On that?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, I didn't see it, but he told
No,
me
of
about
course
it.
not.
No.
Oh, my gosh. I just don't get it.
Well, what is there not to get, Hallie?
I don't understand what Lee Lalo is.
Well, there's some letters missing. When it's colder, there's some letters missing.
Oh. Live, laugh, love?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's a crime against humanity.
Oh, well, at least you have your girlfriend, Jen Hatmaker.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
What's wrong?
I mean, honestly, Hallie, we're taking a break.
Oh, no. What happened?
She was obsessed with me, Hallie.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
It just was freaking constant, just texting me and calling me, FaceTiming me, wanting me to read these books and cook things. I finally just had to say, hey, you know what, J-Hat, there are three people in this relationship, and one of them is just getting ignored.
Clay?
What? No, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I just said, Jen, I love you, and I think we're soulmates, and that there's probably, a great potential for marriage there, but you've really got to get your priorities straight. And until then, lose my number. Well, I didn't say lose my number. I just said, don't call my number so much.
Well, sometimes taking a break is a great way to work on a relationship.
Yeah, that's what I think so. Yeah. Live,
Okay.
life, love. Anyway, Hallie, how was your week?
Well, unfortunately, I kind of had a bummer of a week, too. My kids hate me, and I feel like a complete failure as a mom.
Oh, why is that, Hallie?
Well, one of my daughters, she really looks up to my son, Day, and she tries to emulate him because she thinks he's cool.
Well, he's not.
I know. And I'm afraid his far left progressive views have started rubbing off on her.
Oh, really? Which daughter are we talking about?
The youngest one.
Oh, okay.
Anywho, we were driving to Steak and Shake the other day, and she says to me, Mom, I don't think I'm going to get married. I'm just not going to get married. And I says, yes, you will, sugar. It's God's plan for your life.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm
then-
going through this very thing right now.
It's
Believe
not
me.
always easy. But then I said, it's God's plan for your life. And then my son Day pipes in and he goes, Mom, that's not true. There's no biblical basis for that being God's plan.
Here we go.
And in fact, Day said the very idea of God having any plan for you isn't in the Bible at all. And I said, yes, it is, buddy. I know my Bible, Jeremiah 29. I know the plan I have for you, says the Lord. And my son Day goes, Mom, God was talking to the tribe of Israel, and he was talking specifically about land and a temple. Like that was the plan.
How does he even know this stuff?
Because he goes in and he reads things like Jeremiah. He reads the verses in context.
Right. Well, tell him to stop doing that.
And my other daughter goes,
Well, which daughter is that?
the other one, she goes, I think I am going to get married. And I says, well, that's good. God's preparing a wonderful husband for you.
At least you got one.
And she goes, well, Mom, you can marry whoever you want. You can marry a girl. You can marry a boy. You can marry a non-binary person. And I says, I'm sorry, sugar. I'm going to have to stop you right there. They get these ideas at the public school. And I says, we are called to biblical marriages, kids. And that means a marriage between one man and one woman.
Right.
And my son Day goes, oh, you want us to follow biblical marriage?
I wish you'd just follow somebody off a bridge sometimes.
And then my son Day goes, okay, well, according to the Bible, a biblical marriage could be between one man and his sister.
What?
And my other daughter goes, or biblical marriage could be between one man and his dead brother's wife.
No.
And then my other daughter goes, or hey, you want a biblical marriage? That could be between one man and one woman and all her servants.
Well, yeah, I guess that did happen in my family one time to a cousin.
And then they just started pummeling me with all these biblical marriages. A biblical marriage could be one man and his rape victim, my daughter said, or one soldier and his virgin prisoners, or one man and 700 women and 300 concubines. Those are biblical marriages.
I wish they would just pay attention to the verses that we teach in church.
I know.
So what did you do?
Well, I got to Steak and Shake and I did a U-turn in the parking lot and drove those smart Alecks right on home. And they were all like, you said we were going to eat at Steak and Shake. And I said, oh no. I said we were going to Steak and Shake. And you put it in context to assume that meant eating. And, that's what it'll get you when you put things in context.
Right.
Nothing at all. No cheese fries for you.
Live, laugh, love.
Just like Jesus had nails in his hands, our guest today puts pegs in a board. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Tim Ribbons. Welcome to the show.
Oh, and I say thank you for having me. Thank you for having me very much.
Oh, it is so cool to be talking to you, Tim, because, I've been curious about this whole thing because when it comes to cribbage, I've always just thought, that's a thing for old people and Russians that they eat. And so I didn't really understand what you're up to. So tell us a little bit about cribbage and how you're preparing it.
Well, cribbage is a game that involves cards.
Oh,
okay? As many games do. It comes from the old times. Comes from Britain, as many card games do. And it also involves a board. Pegging in a board. So you start off, and there are 121 spaces in the board that you could put your peg into. But what you're going to do is you're going to go from 0 to 121. And whoever gets there first, well, guess what? They win.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about, I think I confused it with cabbage.
Oh, that sounds good.
No, cabbage is actually a food. And so while many Russians like to eat cabbage, you can play a version of cabbage in cribbage.
Oh.
So I understand where you get confused. It's got the two C's there, and both sounding the same is very, very, very confusing. Let's
Okay.
call it.
Well, that's
and now what
probably
happens
what
with
I meant.
cabbage, though, is what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to saute the cabbage, and you're going to want to shrink it down a little bit, take some of the water out of that. Then you can have it on whatever you want. You can make a sauerkraut out of that. You can have it on, I don't know, let's call them pot stickers. You're going to want to call them something different. I'm calling them pot stickers. Let's sour cream that up, salt and pepper that, eat it as a meal. It's great.
Oh, my mouth is watering. Wow. You could throw it on pastrami.
Oh, my goodness. Here's the thing. Pastrami is an interesting meat, and let me tell you why. You can have it canned. You can have it fresh. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to slice it real, real thin because there's nothing worse than, let's call it a thick slice of pastrami. Because what you're going to have to do is you're going to take a bite out of that sandwich that you've made with all this pastrami and all of this cabbage in there too. Okay. Want a little bit of Russian dressing there, a little bit of Thousand Island type of thing. Ooh. But if you have a thick piece of pastrami, what you're going to do is you're going to bite in, you're going to take that whole thing out, you're going to take half your sandwich with you. So slice it thin, salt it up again, even though it's a salted and cured meat. Salt it up again and eat that. Oh, just have that sandwich and not take out the whole bite at one time.
Right. I'm sorry. I guess I'm sorry that I confused them. Anyway, so Tim, where are you from originally?
I am actually from Cribbage, Ontario, in Canada.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. I always wonder, is that the reason why I started playing cribbage in the first place? Because coming from Cribbage, Ontario, which is a town that was incorporated about 100 years ago, I wonder if that's the reason that brought me to the game cribbage. And then I realized, well, there were two things that brought me to the game of cribbage.
Ooh.
Now, one would be obviously the town name, and I got a lot of town pride. So cribbage is one thing in that respect. But he brought me to cribbage.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Let's say that, I mean, there again, two things, name of the town, but he brought me to cribbage.
It's all part of
because
God's plan.
It seems like a place like Cribbage, Ontario. I mean, is it known for the game?
It's actually known for a couple of different things. Meth has been vaulted into number one that it's known for, as many towns across our great nation are known for is meth now. But originally, it was known for cabbage, if you can believe it or not. So what happened was, it started out as a cabbage farming community, sort of early in the 1900s. And what happened was, they decided that, well, when you're harvesting cabbage, you need a little bit of a break. And you can do two things on a break. You can play cribbage, or you can play cribbage.
Right.
That
And-
is
right.
awesome.
And now I guess you do meth.
Well, yeah, you can do meth, but I tell you what, the more meth that you do, the more cribbage you can play, and the more cabbage you don't want to eat. So it's kind of like it's a little bit of a weird trifecta type of thing. They all intersect at one golden place, and that is right at his feet.
Awesome.
That's where they all intersect:
Awesome.
meth, cribbage, and cabbage.
Awesome. Tim, forgive me if this is too personal a question right out of the gate, but if a gal puts ketchup mustard on a hot dog and then throws on some sauerkraut, do you think it's unladylike?
Hallie, I don't really know why we're talking about that kind
Well,
of stuff.
I mean, here's the thing: it really depends on what your definition of ladylike is. Because I'll tell you what I like about a lady. What makes me like a lady?
Ooh.
Let's call it like that. Pardon me there. What makes me like a lady is a lady that can express who she is. And now if that lady likes ketchup, and that lady likes mustard, and that lady likes hot dogs, and that lady likes cabbage
Yeah.
or sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were talking about the trifecta a little bit earlier, okay? So where we're intersecting right now is at the corner of mustard, ketchup, and sauerkraut on Hot Dog Way. So what I like about that is a woman who really can express herself.
Wow.
And if it's through food, absolutely, I love that. So I would say to all of those three things, fantastic, and that's my ideal woman right there.
So enough about cabbage. How do you play cribbage? Because that's not really something I don't. What is it exactly? Because I don't really think that's a game that we play much around here. And how do you bring Christ into cribbage?
Well, you bring Christ into cribbage, I mean, I guess the same way that you bring Christ into anything.
I love that.
You open your heart,
Right.
first of all. So what you're going to want to do to start the cribbage game, you're going to want to get cards first, a deck of cards, 52 cards. You're going to want to take the jokers out of those cards.
Oh, okay.
You don't need those. Jokers are no good. Jokers have a bit of a nefarious quality to them,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken. So you want to take those out right away. So you start with a deck of 52, okay?
Wow.
And then you're going to want to start it off with a little bit of a prayer, a prayer to him, a prayer to he, a prayer to us to start the game off. And what I like about that is it helps the mood of the game get elevated to begin with, and then you start in. So, and then after that, you get your cribbage board. I told you it's 121 spaces. Start at 0. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your little pegs in. First, you're going to want a flat surface. So a flat surface, you could have a table, or a larger table, or a smaller table, or like a medium-sized table. Put your cribbage board on that table. Start it off, deal the cards, say a prayer, get into it. That's how cribbage goes.
Right. I think that's clear. I mean, do you think that, sometimes when it comes to cards, and I know a lot of Christians are going, hey, cards, that could be tools of the devil. Do you think because you add those pegs in that board, it kind of, adds a bit of Cracker Barrel into it, and so then it's,
It makes it more wholesome.
Right, more wholesome, more Christian.
Now, I think you're 100% right. 100% right. Because cards on their own, you are correct. Cards can be used for bad things.
Yeah.
They can be used for gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate
Okay?
that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like that.
No.
Now, you want to take your cards and you want to go gamble, you do that on your own time. You don't do it on my time.
Yeah.
And you certainly don't do it on our time, and you don't do it on his time.
Right.
Okay? With the board and with the pegs, I like to think of the pegs as the disciples of the board. If we're looking at the board as him,
Yeah.
we're looking at the pegs as the disciples of him. And the disciples, they make it wholesome.
Yeah.
He makes it wholesome.
Yeah.
I
And the
love it.
cards, they get taken down a peg or two on the nefarious side, because that's what you need to do. I don't want any nefarious behavior going on here. So yes, of course, you add a little bit of that cheddar cheese in there, a little bit of that Cracker Barrel, as it were.
Right.
And you have those pegs, you have those disciples, and you make it wholesome.
Didn't Christ tell us to go out and make disciples of all nations? So here you've got your disciples in your little board, and you're traveling around the country. You're on the Cribbage for Christ, the Renege tour, right? I mean,
That is correct. Cribbage for Christ Renege Tour 2022.
Wow, rolls off the tongue.
it is so cool. So you're traveling around teaching people about Christ through a wholesome game that everybody knows and loves. I mean, what do you think of Indy? Do you like Indianapolis? Is it a lot like Canada?
Rolling through on the Cribbage for Christ Tour, it really helps spread the word of the Lord. And when you go to interesting places like Broad Nipple, you get to interact with the people in a way that is fun. First of all, with the cribbage, with the board, you're in a group, you're having fun, you're enjoying each other's company in a wholesome way, and that's what I like about it.
I mean, is that how you came to Christ? Was through cribbage?
Yes. Short answer to that is yes. That is how I came to Christ. Now, growing up in Cribbage, Ontario, there are many different paths you can walk. Now, unfortunately, I will say for myself as a younger man, I chose to walk a bit of a darker path.
Oh, no.
I didn't see the light to begin with. Starting off with cabbage, that really held me for a long time. Harvesting cabbage, sautéing cabbage, eating cabbage, putting cabbage on things. That helped me for a long time. But I tell you what happens in a small town. You can get a lot of idle hands. And so those idle hands led me to some darker places, like I said. And we talked about a certain drug problem that a lot of small towns have. It's called meth. And that's what happened to me. I will say it right now. I am not proud of it. I am proud of how I came out of it. But I went from cabbage to meth to cribbage to salvation.
Oh, I love that.
And that's what happened.
So cabbage was a bit of a gateway drug to meth, and you're saying that luckily meth led you to cribbage, led you to Christ.
You can only climb out from the bottom once you've hit the bottom. You have to reach the bottom.
Yep.
And for me, reaching the bottom started with a little bite of raw cabbage in the field.
Wow.
Ended with a serious meth addiction, some new teeth I needed, and then all of a sudden, the light. I saw the light, and I climbed out, and I climbed towards that light. And in that light, there was a wooden cribbage board, 121 spaces, that could be moved, that could be steps on breaking me out of this pit of despair, of this black hole of emptiness, all the way to the top. Wow. And who was at the top? I got a question for you. Who was at the top?
Christ?
My father.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Okay, a twist
I almost
there.
said your mom. Yeah.
Tom Ribbons.
Wow.
And Tom Ribbons showed me the way. He showed me the way out of the dark and into the light. And who did that for him? Well, it was the Lord. So as my father did before me, I found the Lord.
I guess I was going to just wonder, and maybe this is going back to the dark stuff, but are those cigarette burns on your forehead, and does that spell no renege? Because I'm kind of trying to connect all the dots here. I mean, and when I say the dots, I mean the cigarette burns.
Now, I will say this. You have a keen eye, because that is exactly what it spells.
Oh, okay.
No renege.
What does that mean?
Now, when you're in a tizzy, a drug-fueled tizzy, your cabbage levels are low in your body, in your bloodstream. You do things that you don't really know why you do them sometimes.
Sure.
So for me, this is when I hit bottom as well. As when I woke up and I had no renege, cigarette burned into my forehead backwards so I could read it in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's when I knew I needed help.
Wow.
That's what also spurred on Cribbage for Christ, the Renege Tour 2022. That's what did it for me. Because I've got this on my forehead, this is what led me to, this is the only title to spread the good word of the Lord on this tour that we're doing.
That
That's
is
it.
awesome.
That's all I could.
love that.
I think the way you pull your bangs down really covers it up. I didn't even notice it at all. Unless you kind of
Right.
speak emphatically and your bangs move.
Yeah, you don't really see guys with bangs like that really anymore.
I
or
like
ever.
it. Yeah. Do you use a flat iron?
I do use a flat iron, yes. It's funny, actually. Using the flat iron took away from the need to wear bandanas all the time. Because you look a little bit shady if you're wearing bandanas all the time.
totally.
So what I did, took a flat iron, got it from my mother, put those bangs down. All of a sudden, there's no more cigarette burns on the forehead.
Awesome. And you don't want to wear a bandana in a big city like Indy because they might think you're in a gang.
I'll tell you what. How am I going to do the Lord's work if people keep thinking that I'm in a gang, that I'm spreading the bad word, when what I'm trying to do is spread the good word?
That's right.
So no, bandanas, out.
So I'm sorry, what is renege? I just don't even know.
Yeah, what does it mean? And I always feel like I'm saying it wrong.
Renege is basically a fancy word for you're a f***ing liar.
Oh, all right.
Renege, in crib, basically means if I'm playing against an opponent and they have cards that they can play but choose not to play, basically a liar, I call renege, and they have to pick up and give me their points that they would have received on those cards that they said they didn't have. It's basically, you're a liar.
Okay.
Wow.
So
That's
I
what
love
renege
that. I
is.
mean, thou
That's
shalt
correct.
not lie. I mean,
And let's not forget, thou shalt not lie.
right.
Yeah. Which means Satan is the grandest reneger.
That is absolutely correct. And I'm glad that you said that, because Satan is the grandest reneger that ever was. He reneges on everything, and especially the cards in his hand that he could play and didn't, and therefore I shall collect his points. Thou shalt collect points.
Yep.
Everybody knows that's another commandment. Thou
Yep.
shalt collect points.
Yep. And we know the cards that the devil is carrying. It's porno. It's foul language.
Totally.
It's probably more porno.
It's like a membership to Orange Theory. I mean, that place is garbage.
Is that's the strip club in Broad Nipple? Yes. Orange Theory?
Yes, you want to.
I mean, basically, if you go in there.
Now, Tim, is Ribbons a family name? Does it come from England? I know very little about Canada, but Tim Ribbons is a really beautiful name, and your father, Tom Ribbons.
Actually, ribbons comes from the candy, if you can believe it. Ribbon candy, which actually does come from Britain to begin with. You probably know this candy from, hanging out at your great aunt's house. She's got a bowl. It's probably crystal, possibly just glass if she's not really that fancy. And what is it full of? It's full of candies that have been there for a long time. They've sweat all over each other, and they come out as one. They've got 50 candies in there, and they're all stuck together. That's the ribbon candy that I know and that I love, and that's where my family name comes from.
You know, Tim, and I guess I'm asking this only because I'm curious. But do you think the whole cribbage thing is sort of catching on down here? How have the numbers been as you're doing your Cribbage for Christ, the Renege Tour 2022?
Well, the numbers south of the 49th parallel have been staggering.
Oh,
Staggering.
Ooh.
We sometimes get between 10 and 15 people
that's
per
awesome.
tournament.
Oh, okay. Per tournament.
And those type of numbers, you can't make this up because you just sound like a liar if you're making it up. Those are exponentially bigger than we would get anywhere in Canada. And so it is catching on like absolute wildfire.
Right. It seems like nobody really lives up there. Is that right?
That is correct. It's a very, very small population.
Wow.
The town of Cribbage, Ontario, is a population of only 35.
Oh, wow.
Correct. And we're all cabbage farmers up there, too. So you've got 35 cabbage farmers in Cribbage, Ontario. That's a mouthful of cabbage.
It's also a nose full of meth.
Now, forgive me if this is too personal a question, but do you think the president of Canada is good looking?
I've always felt that he's very good looking.
Oh, yeah.
He reminds me of the first day of the harvest.
Ooh.
And you're pulling up a lot of dirt, but you're pulling up good cabbage, too. Okay, and you're getting some. There's a little bit of white on the cabbage. There's some nice green in there, and all of a sudden you pull up something, and it is bright green. It is like a radioactive nuclear rod. How green it is, and that is how the president of Canada looks. He is just that type of green, that type of standout diamond in the rough. Greenest cabbage you've ever seen.
So you're saying kind of the president of Canada is like this bright green cabbage that you pulled out of the ground with no dirt on it, totally clean.
That's correct. Now, what he tries to do sometimes what happens with the cabbage is when you pull up that bright green, just like the president's face, this diamond in the rough there. Sometimes you don't want to have your nose in the air to be looking down upon the other cabbage farmers, and so what you do is you put a little bit of, let's call it face paint, on the face of the cabbage to make it a little bit darker toned, and I think the president of Canada would agree with that. That's something that I think that he would agree with.
Yeah, as long as it's not caught on a photo that'll come back to haunt him, it's probably fine.
Well, we actually have a ban on taking photographs in any of the cabbage missions, in any of the cabbage processing, in any of that. There's a complete blackout, complete cell phone blackout and camera blackout there. You can't do it. Is it blackface or blackout? I can't remember.
Oh, that's great. I noticed you're wearing 2 wedding rings.
Are you married?
Yes, I am married, actually. And, that eye of yours is just perfect because there are 2 wedding bands here. And some would think that means 2 wives.
Oh.
Now, let's roll it back here for a second. Let's roll the cabbage back up the hill for a second here. 1 wife, 2 wedding rings to show my undying love 2 times over.
Oh, awesome. So you got married twice.
We did get married twice. Yes, that's correct. We had two ceremonies, 2 receptions, and 2 what's called the smashing of the cabbage ceremony. So what you do is you take a cabbage and you put it in like a napkin, and then you place it on the ground and you scream cribbage as you stomp on it, and it breaks, and then that sort of like starts the union of 2 people. It's great.
So are the wedding? So is this sort of a classic Canadian wedding? You have 2 weddings right in a row, and you stomp on a cabbage. Are they back to back, or is there some time in between?
No, you're right. It is a very classic Canadian wedding. So what you would do is you start the first ceremony, and you run it through, culminating in the stomping of the cabbage.
Oh, okay.
And then back to ones, people. Let's get back into your seats. I'll go back, into the staging area. The bride will go back into the staging area. But the thing is, you need to pretend like the first ceremony hasn't even happened.
Oh.
And that's the kicker for it. So then you go through the rest of the ceremony exactly the same as it was, but pretend like the first one didn't happen. Stomp the cabbage, and by that time, you're married once, but 2 rings.
That is so neat. We have a similar thing in Australia. We do 2 ceremonies, one for the bride's family, one for the groom's family, but they're 3 years apart. And just so to make sure that they can never meet, or the wedding is cursed. But it probably is a similar thing.
Now, would they meet not within the 3 years, obviously. I mean, you can't meet within the 3 years in Australia. But after that, would the bride and groom's family meet after, or are they completely separate from one another always?
Right. Well, groom's wedding is first, and his family just in that 3-year time frame can never meet the bride's family, and then the bride's ceremony, and then it's all bets are off after that. But typically, you like to really keep them, as they say, keep them separated, as the newsboys sang.
Beautiful. Just sounds heartwarming.
Now, forgive me if this is too personal a question, but in Canada, are you allowed to have a conjugal visit of your wife after the first ceremony and before the second ceremony? Does everyone know what you're doing in there? Or are you saying that you're just taking more special photos? What happens in between the ceremonies?
You are 100% right, and very, very good on you there. You do get a conjugal visit in between the first and second ceremonies. Now, it's what we like to refer to in Canada as an open secret.
Okay.
You finish. You stomp the cabbage. You run back to the staging area, you get to it. And it's going to take a long time because you've got 2 pairs of pants on, you've got 2 shirts on, you've got 2 everything on. So you've got to strip the first one down.
Okay.
Wow.
Then undo the second pair.
Wow.
Pants to the ankles.
Yeah.
Shirt to the tits. Straight up there. You do it as quick as you can, as many times as you can. You've got a time limit there. It's a 3-minute time limit. And then you come back out, you start the second ceremony. That's correct. Yes, so you get a conjugal visit in between the first and second ceremony. That's correct. And the open secret is it's kind of well known. But that's sort of the fun of it.
Talk about stomping the cabbage.
Well, stomping the cabbage actually comes from a long, long time ago, back in the old country.
Oh.
And when I say the old country, it's the town right next to Cribbage, Ontario. That's actually Cabbage, Ontario. And so that's where it comes from. So they were stomping the cabbage in their marriage ceremonies, as far back as 1900, if you can believe it.
Oh, wow. I can't
that
even
far
imagine
back.
that far back.
And so that's where the term stomping the cabbage comes from. Now they in Cabbage, Ontario, they have a term called stomping the cribbage, which they put a cribbage board for their wedding ceremonies into a napkin and they stomp on it too. There's not as much of an explosion like a cabbage would be because you're just stomping a piece of wood, and frankly, you get a lot of twisted ankles in there. But that's their ceremony as opposed to ours, which is stomping the cabbage. So we get it from them, they get it from us. It's a give and take, quid pro quo type of a deal.
Now, tell me if I'm using it right. Hey, Dad, Mom's in such a bad mood. Maybe you should take her out back and smash her cabbage. Does that work?
Yes, absolutely. That works 100%.
It helps me because I've had so many kids, and each time I've been like, well, my body is practically ripped open because this kid coming out just smashed my cabbage. That really helps me make sense of things.
I guess my only other question, Tim, and if you could just keep this really simple, because I think the problem maybe the reason you don't have so many people coming to these cribbage games is no one really knows what the heck is going on a lot of times. So what I would ask you is, what's just like a really good score in cribbage? What can people expect when you're playing cribbage? Just the score or something.
Well, first of all, I would start that with 15-2, 15-4, praise the Lord.
Okay.
Because if you're going to have the greatest score that you can possibly have, he will help you to get a 29.
See?
Oh, okay.
Okay. And a 29 is the type of a time that we are going to have in Broad Nipple on this cribbage tour.
Okay.
Cribbage for Christ Renege Tour 2022. We are going to have a 29 of a time. Let me tell you that right now. And also, that's a go.
I think I'll just never understand cribbage.
Now, what does it mean when you say that's a go?
Well, that means that you have counted all the way up to 31 in your hand, and there can be no more counting going on. Okay. So that's a go. You get a point for that one. Now, I'd just like to say that I feel like we are just going to get pegged for a 29 in Broad Nipple tonight.
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
Tim Ribbons was played by Nate Dales. He's amazing in the hilarious show Letterkenny on Hulu. Folks, it's so damn funny, and I love, love, love it, and we love, love, love him. Follow Nate at SummerNate. I'm Holly Laurent playing Hallie Labont, and Grey Haas was played by Greg Hess. Follow us and Mega the Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and if you really want to get out of hell free card, support us on Patreon. The link is in the show notes.